Cool.
No one ever quits a football team that's 10-0. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, kids don't leave success. Kids seek success at all costs. That success is a kid magnet. It doesn't matter what the activity is. Kid doesn't need to be naturally talented at it. They just need to be successful at it, and then they'll flock to it.
You are listening to the Music Ed Mentor podcast, where we teach music educators how to build, manage, and grow thriving school music programs and have long and happy careers. Welcome to episode 16 of the Music Ed Mentor podcast. We are talking today all about retention. I am your host, Elisa Jones. You can follow my music education blog at professionalmusiceducator.com or find me on Facebook at Professional Music Educator with Elisa Jones. With so much going on in schools today, it can make it tough for students to make choices about their schedule and whether they want or even can stay in your music class. As educators, if our classes are electives, it can be particularly tough to keep our enrollment up, where there seems to be more activities and options added to compete every year. We know it's important to always be growing our program, not just so more students can participate in the powerful education that music provides, although that is the number one reason, right? But also because district and school budgets are often determined based on enrollment numbers. If our enrollment goes down, so can our financial resources, and that can mean disaster for our program. Now, stick with me, even if your class is compulsory, because you really never know when you're going to have to change jobs or when your class will become non-compulsory and you're going to have to recruit. So this is great information no matter what you teach or where you teach or how you teach, okay? So what can we do to maximize our retention, keeping students in our program? What can we offer that will keep kids interested in what we're doing instead of dropping out for the next shiny thing? And how do we keep them coming back year after year? What is it that students need from us, and how can we give them that thing? To help answer these questions, I've brought in recruiting master and student leadership trainer Scott Lang, founder of Be Part of the Music and Scott Lang Leadership. But first, a big shout out to Smart Music, this episode's sponsor, of course. For those of you who didn't know, Smart Music is just one offering from the Make Music company, who also produces the top-selling composition software, Finale. They really know how to provide solutions for music educators. This episode is also brought to you by the International Music Education Summit. It's a 100% online music education conference coming online this June. Go to musicedsummit.org to learn how you can register for the conference, become a presenter, or have your business be a sponsor for this first time ever international event. Now, here's my interview with Scott. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for our audience?
My name's Scott Lang. That's about it.
I
got 2 kids. I got a golden retriever. My golden retriever needs medical marijuana more than any other animal on this planet. The dog is so high-strung, she makes ADD seem like they're comatose. That's my entire biography. I got a gorgeous wife, 2 knucklehead kids, and an insanely high-strung golden retriever. If I can get through raising the 2 kids and not killing the golden retriever, then I think those are pretty much the summation and highlights of my life experiences.
That's pretty impressive. So what about how you're connected to music education?
Well, I spent about 16 years in a classroom, so that didn't hurt, and loved virtually every second of it. And any educator who tells you they love every second of it is either lying to you or selling you something. Even spent a year in administration. I was an assistant principal for about 18 months, and that made me want to poke my eyes out every single day. If you ever want to see the dark underpinnings and underbelly of the education process, go into administration. And I say that with reverence and respect. I don't say it out of disrespect, in that just everything that goes wrong and the troubles surface in that office, and you have to deal with them, and that's your full job, 8 hours a day, 50 weeks a year. Some ways that it takes mental stamina you can't even imagine. And then I've spent the last 14 years crisscrossing the country, just yelling at kids and talking about why music matters.
That's amazing. I've had a couple of good music teacher friends of mine go into administration. And one of them put it this way, that when you're in music, you're dealing with the top 10% of kids in the school, the ones who are totally well behaved, really on the ball. And when you go into administration, you're now dealing with the bottom 10% of the school.
Well, and frankly, and again, with respect, the bottom 10% of the teaching profession too. And I was fully prepared for that. It's an assault on your senses of negativity. I mean, it really is. And being an administrator is a fantastic job. I'm not casting any aspersions on that profession at all. But you have to have the right disposition and the right personality for it. The two things that you have to be prepared for is, number one, the amount of negativity that crosses your desk every day. You have to be that type of person that can let water roll off a duck's back. If you're not that person, you're not a good fit for the job. The second thing is you have to be comfortable dealing with the small individual victories. You're not going to stand on a stage in front of 300 people and get a standing ovation. You're not going to get a superior with distinction. You're going to have to work with one kid, and you're going to have to work with that same kid every day who told the teacher to take a flying leap, and you're going to have to work with them every day for 6 weeks just to get him to go 2 days without flipping his middle finger to the teacher. And you have to be willing to take that victory and feel good about it. And so, again, I think it's an incredible profession, and there are people who are well suited to it and incredibly successful at it. I am just not one of those people. And I felt like I was very successful. My principal loved me. She wanted me to stay, but I didn't feel successful because it didn't match my personality or my skill sets. So I would say it's a great job. You just got to have the right personality for it.
Let's talk about retention. And we're really just going to work this as a discussion back and forth rather than like a checklist of items. We'll probably have a checklist download just for our listeners to have something to go back to and review. But let's talk about, why do students drop out and what can we really do you think, to keep them in the programs?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's important to understand you don't want every student in music. It's a great bumper sticker. It is. It's a wonderful poster, but it's not real. You want every student who wants to be there to be there. You want the right type of student. I think it's a fool's errand to believe that every child should be attracted to any one given activity, whether it's drama, whether it's band, whether it's football, whether it's choir, whether it's academic decathlon. You want every student to have access to music education, but that doesn't mean every child is going to choose music education. And even the child that chooses music education, playing guitar is every bit the music education that playing in band is. Playing in a rock ensemble is every bit the music education that playing piano in a class piano is every bit the music education that choir and orchestra are. It's just a different type of music education. What you're looking for is the student who's the right fit for music education. And I think it's also important to understand that music education operates at very different levels, and that's one of the real struggles I think people, especially in the smaller schools and smaller programs, deal with is you have a kid sitting first chair in there that really believes they can be a music major and wants to go to Juilliard. You have a kid who's last chair in there that just wants to hang out and be with his friends. And I'm a fervent advocate, ardent believer that both are valid reasons to be in music. I don't think music necessarily needs to be a career path any more than I think a kid takes math because they're going to be a lifelong mathematician. I believe that there are different reasons and different places for people to be in music, and they're all equally valid. It's not my decision or my job to judge anybody's reason or rationale to be in music. So, when we're talking about retention, number one is I think it's important to understand that you want to retain the right students. Number two, I think it's important that you find the right fit for those students, and that there needs to be a place for the kid who's headed to Juilliard and wants to do all region, all county, all state, wants to take private lessons, wants to do concert of soloists. But there also needs to be a place for a kid who just wants to pick up his horn and play every once in a while. Every single one of those is equally valid. So that would be my first thought process. The second process, the greatest battle that stands between rollicking enrollment and music education, it's time. It's that simple. Wherever you see really highly successful music programs, you almost always see a 7-period or 8-period day. There is more time in the day to choose music. Very rarely do I ever see a student go, I'm dropping out of music because I hate music. They usually drop out of music because of lack of time. Well, I have to choose between music and another activity. I have to choose between music and a job. I have to choose between music and academic pursuits. I have to choose between music and summer school. It's a time issue. And wherever you see successful, thriving music programs, you see freedom of choice and time. And the problem is what's happening in America's public schools is since I graduated, which was, let's not be, liars here, was more than a few days ago. But when I graduated high school, there was 19 credits required for graduation. At this point in time, there are 24 credits to the average high school to graduate. We've added an entire year of credits required to graduate from high school. And in some states, mine being one of them, if you are college bound, you don't get an elective for 2 years. Foreign language is your elective. That's it. You're done. It's over. You can choose an elective when you're a junior, maybe. If you want to choose music, you are required to take summer school if you're college bound. And let's be honest, the studies show that 90% of music students are college bound. We're fighting a battle of time. That's the battle we're fighting. It's not about music and whether kids like it and perception and being cool. And that's not our battle. Our battle is time. And that's a hard battle to fight when our country is currently swinging in a pendulum towards higher academic standards, greater rigor, greater assessment, and lower taxes. That is a recipe for the crushing of the arts like we never dreamed we'd see in our lifetime. But that is the concoction that we're facing right now.
So in your experience, have you seen school music programs where kids drop out just because of program quality? Does, the quality of your program really, how much does that affect?
Of course it does. Kids can see through junk, and they value their time as much as an adult values their time. I don't think kids see, through quality any better or worse than adults see through quality. When you buy a garment, you want it to be a high quality garment. If you're going to spend time doing an activity, you want that activity to yield positive results. Everyone wants to be a part of something successful. No one quits a 10-0 football team. No one. The people that quit are the ones that are 0-10, and they're giving their heart and their soul, but they're led by an instructional leader that's not competent, or they're not seeing growth and gain. And that doesn't mean every organization needs to be a top 10 program or have a perfect season or win championships or awards or be first place. What kids want to feel is like they're successful. I'm able to do this, and I'm able to do it well, and I feel good about it, and I'm getting better, and the group's getting better. And I don't think that's unique to young people. I think that's a pretty truism across all platforms and across all ages. Kids just want to feel successful and be a part of something successful. If the speech and debate team wins a state championship, I'll bet you dollars to donuts that the speech and debate team enrollment doubles next year. And it's not because all of a sudden 50% more speech and debaters moved into the district. It's because kids saw that as something successful and they wanted to be a part of it. I've always said, to be honest with you, the greatest thing you can do to build a program is to be a good teacher, period, the end. The next greatest thing you can do to build a program is to be a happy teacher, period, the end. If you're a high quality instructor and you're happy, you're going to do just fine in this world, because kids want to be around quality and kids want to be around something that's enjoyable. And whatever teacher you are, on a bad day, you're a better teacher on a good day. If you're a 9 on a bad day, you're a 10 on a good day. If you're a 5 on a bad day, you're a 7 on a good day. Be good and be happy. Those are the two greatest things you can do to build a program.
Yeah, I love that advice. So let's say that we start at a brand new school. This is just totally hypothetical, but we started a brand new school. The program's a little small. We don't have as many kids. Maybe our instrumentation isn't great. They haven't developed the kind of musicianship that we have as a standard. Do you think that there are things that we can add that will help retain and recruit more students, like band tours or, taking them out of the school for trips or socials? What do these extra things really mean for our program?
Well, it varies. There is no one solution to any problem. And so, the thing that what might work in the suburbs might not work in the inner city. What might work in a place of affluence might not be successful in a place with a low socioeconomic standard. What might work with a homogenous group might not work with a very diverse group. And I think it's about understanding your community more than anything. And I think that it's more than just, the trips or the extra things. It's about understanding yourself as a teacher in that community. I am, without question, a fairly aggressive, fairly edgy person. It's what I've been. It's who I am. It's what I will always be. And I've always taught in areas that were low socioeconomic and highly urbanized. And I do that because my teaching style fits that community. The things I say, the things I do, the ways in which I teach probably wouldn't always sit well in the suburban areas of high affluence where the parents are uber involved. And so that I think is important, is understanding your community and placing yourself as a teacher inside that community, so that whatever decisions you make, whether it's a trip, whether it's a recruitment thing down to the elementary school, whether it's a community engagement activity, whether it's local parade, just knowing that I understand this school community, I understand this public community, and it's a fit for who I am, and I'm able to make the decisions and the judgments that are going to speak best to this community. And so, I don't think, I've never been, and I'm always trying to be very cautious about trying to tell a teacher, well, this is what you should do, because that's what works for me in the situations that I taught. But even if you teach in a similar situation, that might not be your personal style. It might not be your mode of communication. And it might be something you do well to say, well, you should go down and talk to, the middle school students. Well, that's great. But if you're an introvert and you're awkward and shy and maybe a little bit band geeky, that's going to turn kids away from music. What you should do is get 3 popular kids, haul them in a car, get them down to that middle school, and close your mouth and let those kids handle that situations. And so if you think, oh, I've got to reach out and personally communicate to parents, if you're not comfortable, or you're in a community that doesn't have a lot of internet access, and you got to get on the phone, and you've got to be skilled at that. So, again, I really believe that successful teaching is very much about a personal fit. What works at a high school doesn't work at an elementary school. What works at a middle school doesn't work at a high school. What works in a low SES doesn't work in a high SES. What works for an introvert doesn't work for an extrovert. Understand your community so you know what their trigger points are. Understand your kids and make sure you're the right person to deliver that message.
It sounds to me like we need to do a whole podcast on self-discovery it took me probably 10 or 15 years of teaching, in a variety of situations to figure out where I would be a good fit and what my teaching style is, and even my philosophy of teaching. And I feel like brand new teachers are supposed to know that about themselves already. And I don't think a lot of them do. Is
No
it
one does.
really that important, do you think?
If anybody does, if anybody says they know that, they're woefully ignorant and doe-eyed. You can't know what marriage is like until you're in a marriage. You can't know what it's like to play in the NFL until a 265-pound man who can bench press 450 pounds with 4% body fat levels you. You can't know what it's like to teach in inner city until you've taught in an inner city. You can't know what it's like to have a philosophy of education until you've been an educator. The saddest part about music education, this is why, some areas are more successful than others when it comes to music education, is we don't groom music educators. You graduate with a degree in music education, we give you the keys to the building. That is the most ludicrous thing anyone can do to a child or to the teacher standing in front of that child. You don't graduate with a degree in banking and we hand you the keys to the bank. You don't graduate with a degree in marketing and we install you as the president of marketing of Coca-Cola. You don't graduate with a degree in physical education and we put you in the NFL. The only profession in which you graduate and we elevate you to CEO the very first day is education. In the places that have really successful track records of fine band programs, fine orchestra programs, fine choir programs, are places that have a grooming process where you start as the third assistant at X school, and then you work your way up to the second assistant and you assist at the high school. And then you work your way up to the head middle school director with responsibilities of oversight. Then you become the second assistant at the high school. Then you have 15 years of pedagogical grooming and classroom management experience with someone who's trained in that field, supervising you and guiding you. And I tell you, if you point to the places that are highly evolved in music education, you will point to places where you don't get the keys to the kingdom on day one. You get the keys to the janitor closet and someone teaches you how to mop the floor. That's where we see successful music education, because you're given that time to groom and grow in an atmosphere that's safe and structured and supervised. And that's absolutely critical. But again, that comes back to money. That people don't want to fund the schools to a level where they're going to have 2 band directors. And so, again, we want high accountability, we want rigor, we want standards, but we don't want to pay for them. We want low requirements and high achievement. And I'm sorry, it just doesn't work that way. When you buy something of low quality, you get something of low quality. When you spend a low amount of money, you get something of low quality. And I don't think education is really any different. And, people always say, And I'm venturing off subject a little bit. Well, throwing money at the problem won't solve it. My answer is, how do you know? We haven't tried that with education. I say we give it a shot.
That is an excellent point. Yeah. So going back to recruitment, because you're kind of a student leadership kind of guy, what role does student leadership really play in the recruitment process? Do we see that, involvement in like a tri-M or a student leadership council, do those kinds of things help that retention?
To be honest with you, probably not. To be honest with you, because you're converting the already religious. They're not going to become more religious. If a kid joined student leadership, it's because he already loves being in band, choir, orchestra. You're not going to make him love band, choir, orchestra more. You never hear about the drum major quitting. You never hear about the lead soprano quitting. The trick is, how do you use those students to be Pied Pipers for other kids? And that's a hard thing to do because student leaders need structure and they prefer structure. It's always interesting to me because, leaders of band, choir, and orchestra, teachers will come to me and say, gosh, my band choir and my orchestra kids, oh my goodness, they're such good kids. They do anything I ask, but they don't do anything else. Why? They have no initiative. And I say, because you beat it out of them. Do you reward a kid when he talks extraneously in class? Nope. Do you reward a kid when he moves attention because he thinks that's what he should do? Nope. Do you reward a kid for playing while you're giving a lecture? Nope. You want him to play when you tell him to play, talk when you tell him to talk. You want him to march when you tell him to march, do what you want him to do, put the horn up when you tell him to put up, put it down when you tell him to put it down, bow when you tell him to bow, do what you do, when you do, how you do. And then you wonder why they don't have any leadership. That the blessing of successful music groups is the same as the curse of music groups, which is we've trained kids to do exactly what we've told them to do it, how to do it, when to do it, and why to do it. But the curse of that is that they don't know what to do when we're not around. And so, I'll show you, when you show me a highly successful music ensemble, I'll show you a highly unsuccessful student leadership team, 9 times out of 10. And there's a whole mathematical reason and a bell curve, and I can talk about, but it's not the point of this podcast. But the bottom line is you've got to tell kids how to do that. I need you to go down to the junior high school. I need you to make 17 posters. I need on the leadership application, there's an attachment with 5 possible names to be in color guard with phone numbers. I need you to talk to everyone in your section and find out who's not returning. You've got to provide structure and a vehicle for those student leaders to be successful in that recruiting and retention process. But if your section leaders and your drum majors and your lead violinists are quitting band, choir, and orchestra, you've got a bigger problem. So, I don't think that you're going to convert the already religious to believe anymore. The trick is using those kids to reach out to non-believers or kids who are on the fence about believing. That's the key. But in order for it to be successful, you've got to provide that vehicle and that structure and that accountability and those systems in place so that they can do that.
So would you recommend that we ever make like a recruiting campaign, let's say?
Absolutely. It's
like
marketing. We're
right,
talking about marketing here.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love marketing.
Literally, I've turned into a marketing geek. If I get an email from Target, I pay darn close attention to the font they use. I look at the time of day that they send it. I look at the day of the week that they send it. I look at the repetitiveness of the campaign. I look at the images. Because they've spent a lot of time and money figuring these things out, and I copy them. If you look at Be Part of the Music. If you look at first of all, if you look at the way we did the videos, we copied that from Disney. Every video we have is a 1.5 minute intro, and then it kicks to a title sequence. We learned that from Disney. Disney never starts a show with title credits and then goes into the show. They do a 1.5 minute buy-in segment, then they run the title credits, then they continue on in the show. If you look at Disney, they never use adults. Hey, Jesse, that's a 17-year-old nanny. Every successful show, Camp Chitty-Waka, I can't remember. I can sing the song because I have kids that age. Those are CITs that are 17 years old teaching younger kids. If you look at our videos, they're all student driven. They're not. In the very first video, I appear in the first minute and a half. You won't see me again for the next 7 videos. I don't exist because I don't speak to that demographic. But I learned that from watching Disney. If you look at our website, it very much has the aesthetic of Apple. All white, all clean. All our videos have that aesthetic. We did that very carefully. I'm going to learn it's marketing. Apple seems to be doing okay. Disney seems to be doing okay. So they must know what they're doing. So what do you say we copy that? We're talking about marketing. And marketing is not a one-time hit. It's a systemic campaign. And the campaign for the kids is different than the campaign to the parents, and the campaign to the administrators is different than the campaign. And I'm not advocating here, it's not my job to advocate here for Be Part of the Music. But what we've done is we've created videos and resource materials that are free of charge, and they speak to every stakeholder. We have parent videos, we have kid videos, we have teacher videos, we have administrator videos, we have counselor videos, we have kid documents, we have parent documents. That it's about creating a systemic and holistic ongoing campaign. And now that, we've now got a parent e-zine that goes out once a month, we've got over 60,000 parents. And the whole concept of that was speaking to the non-believer. Because the problem with is, the band parent that comes to the band parent meeting, they already love you. It doesn't do you any good to talk about recruitment and retention to the parent who already loves you. You need to find the parent who doesn't love you or doesn't care. And that's real. They don't care. And it's not that they don't care about, you as a person. It's that they are juggling a lot in their lives. They care about their kid. And if their kid cares about band, by de facto, they care about band. But believing that the average parent who might or might not be a single parent, who has a job, who might not have help at home, is working an 8-hour day, coming home, supervising homework, getting their kid to their flag football practice, cooking dinner, making sure that the clothes are washed, is going to think 1 second about band is a fool's errand. And that's the parent that you want to try and reach in a meaningful way. And that's not an easy task. So it does require an effort. It does require the people that you can reach with what's called single touch marketing. Those are people who already love you. It's easy to market to someone who already has a Target credit card. They already have a credit card. They already spend a lot of money at Target. That's a no-brainer. Can you target to the person who it's a 30-minute drive to Target? Or can you market to the person who shops at Walmart? That's what you want to do.
So is that what we should be doing as far as recruiting and retention?
Absolutely.
Going after the kids who maybe don't want to be in it?
That's correct. Yeah. I mean, That's where you're saying, here's the thing. And what about the kids that aren't in it? Here's the thing you got to think about. And it was something I used to process through. And some years I was successful more than others, is that if I can get 10 new kids into my program each and every year, be it in the color guard, be it, hey, your best friends, all your friends are in band, you're constantly hanging around the band room, join band. You're here anyway. Or a kid who never tried band. If I could find 10 kids a year over a 4-year cycle, that was 40 kids. That's an entire additional ensemble. That's an entire class section every single year. And that's what you got to think about, and think about manageable ways. Where can I find? And the way you find kids is through other kids. The way you train a dog is through other dogs. I just read a book the other day that said, it's an article that was about a book, to be clear, that they use dolphins to train other dolphins. They use dogs to train other dogs. It's all about, human training via animal training. And if you want to train other kids, if you want to train kids, use other kids. If you want to recruit kids, use other kids. Adults don't speak great kids speak. Kids speak great kids speak. And so I used to, as a part of my leadership application, I would tell kids the back page, it was a really rigorous week. I mean, it took 4 weeks to finish my leadership application. But one of the last steps was attached is a list. It was just blank names, phone numbers, and email addresses. List a minimum of 10 students you would believe might be interested in possibly joining band or color guard. And then we would hand contact those people. And some years we'd get 15 new kids. Some years we'd get 5. But when 50 kids would apply, to be leaders, that would be, in theory, there was a lot of crossover, basically 100 possibilities of kids to join an organization. And then I would assign each kid, here's a list of 5 kids, contact them, talk to them about it, see if they're interested. And if they have questions, pass it up to me. I'll pick up the phone. I'll call the parents.
Well, Scott, you've sure given me a lot of insight and things that I had never thought about when it came to recruiting and retention, especially. So let's just real quick give our listeners, what are your top 5 tips for retention? What have we got to do? Top tips.
Okay. Number 1, remember, it's a campaign. It's not a singular event. That's number one. Number
Yeah.
two, you've got to remember to recruit your own kids first. You gotta stem the bleed. It's real easy, to go, I'm gonna go after those new kids or in junior high school, but then you forget to recruit the alto sax player sitting in your room he's burnt out. Number three, you want to recruit not every kid, you want to recruit every right kid. Number four is that a happy teacher is the best recruiter. And number five would be, don't forget that you have to recruit the decision maker too, which is the parent. It's not enough to recruit the kid, because when the kid comes home and says, I want to be in band, and mom says, I want you to go to Harvard. No. Well, then it doesn't matter what the kid wants. Right. I want you to take AP biology. No. I don't want to give up my Friday nights. No. So those would be my 5 tips right there.
Okay.
Take those for what they're worth.
I'm going to throw out a couple more of my own too. Listen to your students, find out why they love your class and why they do stick around, and then do more of that thing to keep them there. And of course, have a high quality program. If you need help, get help, get mentorship, go out of your way to get what it is that you need, because kids want to be part of something great.
Absolutely.
Think of ways that you can provide your current students leadership opportunities to take the initiative. I love the idea of giving your student leaders, just turning over the recruitment campaign to them. Is that something you'd ever recommend,
sure.
Scott?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, first of all, take more work off your plate. Kids better than kids. And they have a fervor and an energy about them that, most teachers just physically can't, manifest, because not only are they teachers, but they're raising their own families. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm a big believer in the ad that if it doesn't require a degree in music education, then the person with a degree in music education probably shouldn't be doing it.
So
you're
thank
welcome.
you, Scott, so much for your time. How can our listeners learn more about you and what you do and be part of the music and all that?
Oh, yeah, if you want to visit, we encourage every educator to visit our resources, which are www.bepartofthemusic.org. When you get there, it's going to ask you to register, and you absolutely should do that, because that's how we understand who you are and what materials you need. We don't sell it. We don't use it for anything, gimmickry. But then what you want to do is choose music educator. And that gives you the back end access to our portfolio, which is be part of the orchestra, be part of the band, stay in music middle school. We have middle school retention materials, and stay in music high school. And we have high school retention materials. We have parent advocacy campaigns. We have social media campaigns are already pre-built for you. All that is on the backside of Be Part of the Music. And choose music educator. And we can do that because we have some wonderful sponsors, including Smart Music, which I know this podcast is hosted on. And so I thank them. But please go and our philosophy is we provide resources, you provide solutions. And that it's like going to dinner. I don't expect you to eat everything on the menu. Pick and choose what you want. Choose the videos that make sense for your situation, and the email campaigns or their documents. It's, pick an appetizer, pick a beverage, pick a main course, pick a dessert, and pick an, after dinner aperitif. But you build the experience that you want, because nobody should tell you how to recruit your students. We just provide every conceivable resource that we can and let you make the decisions for what's best. And if you need to reach out to me personally, you can do that through my website at scottlang.net, or my phone number and my email address are on that website. Or you just open the window and scream, "Hey, Doofus," and I'm likely to respond.
My programs, my classes are all compulsory, so I don't have to worry about recruiting and retention, though I did in the past. And I even got a stack of brochures from Be Part of the Music just to hand out to the board of my school, to my principal. And
see, that's smart. That's really, really smart of you. And first of all, and music should be compulsory. Now, it doesn't mean band, choir, orchestra, but every study we know says that kids are more successful if they're involved in music. And then it mystifies me why people say, oh my goodness, we should make it an elective. Well, then I agree. Then let's make brushing teeth an elective. Let's make eating vegetables an elective. Let's make getting 8 hours of sleep an elective. Let's make looking both ways before crossing the street an elective. Hell, if we're making things that absolutely quantifiably make children better an elective, then let's make, drugs an elective. It just doesn't make sense to me. Music should be compulsory. Now, what type of music should be non-compulsory? But music for every child should be compulsory. I'm an absolute ardent believer of that. Sorry,
No,
went
I
off on a
love it.
tangent there. Now you know where my dog gets his neurotics from it. He gets it
Nah,
from me.
it's just the passion that comes through. It gets everybody excited listening to you. So thank you again so much, Scott Lang, and thank you all of you who listened to this episode. We hope you grabbed some great
Thanks, everyone.
wisdom nuggets for keeping kids involved in your music programs.
Hey, and to everyone out there who's listening, thank you, Elisa, for providing this and this resource. And thank you to Smart Music for doing this. But most importantly, if you're listening, thank you for being a teacher. What you do is incredibly difficult. And that's coming from a guy who quit. So I recognize and I appreciate, as someone who's got a kid in band in 7th grade, I appreciate you for fighting the good fight and know that you're making a difference and we value you.
I know it's a lot to absorb, but the good news is you can listen to this episode again anytime you want or grab the download Top Tips for Student Retention from the smartmusic.com blog. Just search for episode 016. I do hope over this series of podcasts on recruitment and retention that you've gleaned a lot of great ideas to implement in your school. Remember, if you're like me and music class is compulsory, this is still great stuff to know. It's marketing, it's advocacy, and it's what you can do if in the future you get to recruit for your own program. You never know what your next job may require of you. A huge thanks again to Scott Lang for being my guest this episode. Don't forget to check out all of the resources on bepartofthemusic.org. They are all free and they are there for you, so sign up and grab them. Also, a huge thanks to Smart Music for bringing you this podcast. Don't forget to check out musicedsummit.org for how you can be involved in the upcoming live online in-service event this June. Remember to rate and share this podcast so we can get more of this information out to more educators like you. Thank you so much for listening and for making a difference every day. Until next time, keep teaching on.